I'm Staff Sergeant Biciano. I'm a 19 Delta instructor at the 1st of the 204th RTI. Also, I'm the EOL for the 204th, 1st of the 204th Regiment.
I'm Sergeant First Class Johnson. I'm the EO and Quality Assurance NCO for the 204th Regiment. And we're here to talk about the Army's Equal Opportunity Program.
What's the purpose?
To fulfill EO training requirements, providing an overview of the philosophy, purpose, and goals of the Idaho Army National Guard EO program.
And the topics include
MEO policy, EO concepts, sexual harassment, complaint processes, and harassment and bullying overview.
Great, thank you. Ultimately, what commanders and subordinate leaders do today will determine the Army's continued success from years to come. Today, commanders have better historical perspective on the potential price that is paid when issues of discrimination and unfair treatment are not swiftly addressed and dealt with. This class is important because regardless of your rank or position, all personnel must be a change agent to ensure no personnel experience any type of discrimination or harassment. One discrimination or harassment is too many. The TY20 overview. Today I will be presenting an overview on the following topics: the purpose and philosophy, goals, and policies of the Army National Guard EO programs, MEO concepts, which is the military equal opportunity concepts, sexual harassment, bullying and hazing, the MEO complaint process, and reprisal prevention. I'll give you a second to look at the controlling regulations and policies. The regulations and policies controlling the MEO and the military has a regulation for everything, and the EO is no exception. These regs and policies dictates the commander's EO programs and compliance standards. The MEO purpose and philosophy. The MEO program formulates, directs, and sustains a comprehensive effort to maximize human potential and to ensure fair treatment for all soldiers based solely on merit, performance, and potential in the support of readiness. MEO philosophy is based on fairness, justice, and equality. Commanders are responsible for sustaining a positive EO climate within their units. The EO program and goals. Commanders are responsible for sustaining a positive EO climate within their units. Specifically, the goals and MEO program are to build and maintain a cohesive, combat-ready Army, which is focused and determined to accomplish its mission. Provide support to soldiers both on and off post and within the limits of the laws of localities, states, and host nations. Ensure MEO exists for all soldiers. Ensure every soldier is treated with dignity and respect. Support commanders at all levels, MEO professionals to include EO advisors, EOAs, EO leaders, EOLs, and the State Equal Employment Manager, which is the SEAM. We're all responsible for the oversight and implementation of the MEO programs, policies. It is the policy of the Army National Guard to provide EO for the Army National Guard military personnel. They will not be subject to harassment, including sexual harassment and unlawful discrimination on the basis of color, race, national origin, religion, sex, to be including gender, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Army National Guard EO applies both on and off post during duty and non-duty hours. It also applies to working, living, and recreational environments, both that are on and off post. Members of the Army National Guard will not retaliate against a member who files a discrimination or harassment complaint, knowingly make a false accusation or discrimination, while in a command position, condone or ignore discrimination or harassment. Some of the protected biases are race, color, sex, religion, and national origin. Some topics I'd like to cover are for race. Race discrimination occurs when an individual is treated differently because of racial group characteristics, which could be their hair, their color, or facial features, or their association with someone of a particular race. Color discrimination occurs when an individual is treated differently based on the lightness or darkness of the tone of that person. Religion discrimination occurs when an individual is treated more or less favorably because of their religious beliefs or practices. National origin discrimination occurs when an individual is treated less favorably because of their origin, ethnicity, or accent, or because it is believed they are of a particular nationality. When does the EO policy apply? EO is a force multiplier and enhances readiness. Treating soldiers with dignity and respect enhances unit cohesion, teamwork, and trust. The equal opportunity is the right of all persons to participate in the benefit from programs and activities, which would be their career, employment, educational, or social. Again, the policy of both applies on and off post, during duty hours, to working, living in recreational environments, but also the most important thing is the online misconduct. Emails, chats, social media, and blogs. When faced with these opportunities to apply yourself to an online social media platform, always make sure that you think, type, and before you post it, make sure that it is in accordance with the Army National Guard policy, that you are being true and honest to yourself and the policies that you are held to. Some of the key EO definitions. At this point, I'd like to conduct an assessment of your attitudes and your belief to these definitions. When I read these definitions, try to judge how accurate your own beliefs are versus what I'm about to read verbatim from the EO policy. Racism. Any attitude or action of a person or institutional structure that subordinates a person or group because their skin color or race. Sexism. Attitudes and beliefs that one gender is superior to another. Prejudice. A negative feeling or dislike based upon a faulty or inflexible generalization that is prejudging a person or group without knowing the facts. Discrimination. Any action that unlawfully or unjustly results in the unequal treatment of persons or groups based on a race, color, sex, national origin, or religion. Bullying. Any conduct whereby a service member or members, regardless of service or position, intends to exclude or reject another service member through cruel, abusive, humiliating, oppressive, demeaning, or harmful behavior, which results in the diminishing of other service members' dignity, position, or status. Hazing. Any conduct whereby one military member or employee, regardless of service or rank, unnecessarily causes another military member or employee, regardless of service or rank, to suffer or be exposed to an activity that is cruel, abusive, oppressive, or harmful. Offensive behavior, defined by the impact on a reasonable person who feels offended, not by the intent of the offender. These definitions I just read verbatim are from the EO policy, which the Army National Guard holds. Now, when you were taking this test, assessing what your beliefs and attitudes are, did they line up with these definitions? Make sure you think about that. Definition of sexual harassment. A form of sex discrimination that involves unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and deliberate or repeated offensive comments or gestures of a sexual nature when submission or rejection is made a term or condition or person's job, pay, or career. Submission or rejection is used a basis for career or employment decisions. Conduct interferes with the individual's work performance. Conduct creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. Reporting to the chain of command is critical because the commander and leadership have a responsibility to immediately stop this type of harassment. Some other types of sexual harassment would be quid pro quo, this for that. Conditions placed on a person's career in return for sexual favors. A hostile environment. Soldiers or civilians subjective to offensive, unwanted, and unsolicited comments or behaviors of a sexual nature, and these behaviors interfere with the work performance. Some sexual harassment behaviors be verbal, jokes, sexually explicit profanity, describing physical appearance, terms of endearment. Nonverbal, which would be staring, licking lips suggestively, displaying sexual explicit pictures or screensavers. Sexually oriented emails, notes, printed material. Physical touching, patting, pitching, blocking passage. Sexual assault may be an extreme form of these behaviors. Sexual harassment indicators. Take a moment to look at these indicators and really commit them to memory. If you're ever in doubt and a situation presents itself and you are unsure of whether or not this behavior is being presented or manifested is sexual harassment, simply ask yourself these questions. If any of them answer yes, then confront the subject and report it through your chain of command. Bullying and harassment are the #1 complaints received by the command. It usually appears with the words of abuse of authority, hostile in work environments. Bullying includes acts of aggression intended to single out certain individuals from their teammates, coworkers, and other parts of this organization. Now, I want to draw your attention to bullying through electronic media. We often see this type of behavior, but also remember that you are held to the Army National Guard policy on and off duty. Now we'll talk about hazing. Hazing. Conduct whereby a service member or members regardless of service, rank, or position, and without proper authority, recklessly or unintentionally cause a service member to suffer or be exposed to any activity that is cruel, abusive, humiliating, oppressive, demeaning, or harmful. Take a moment to look at these things that include into hazing. But also remember, express or implement consent, implied consent to hazing or bullying is not a defense for this violation of this regulation. For online bullying and hate and harassment. Online social media is the #1 source of bullying and harassment, complaints that are reported through the chain of command. Understand this. Once you hit send, then it is for the worldwide distribution of viewing. Think twice and critically before posting online. Take a look at these platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, email, text, and phone. Remember that on and off duty, you are required to uphold these policies. For the next slides, I'll be followed on by Sergeant First Class Johnson.
So next we're going to talk about EO applicability. Hazing and bullying is often connected with discrimination, sexism, and racism. Any form of disparaging term, slur, or stereotype is inappropriate. Hazing and bullying on the basis of race, color, sex, gender, identity, orientation, or sexual harassment, or religion, national origin, is a EO issue. Any other types of hazing and bullying will be reported to the IG or the chain of command. Some things you can think about. I think back to high school and the seniors picking on the freshmen as a rite of passage. That is inappropriate and unacceptable with the Army EO policy. Some responses. You can use a direct approach. Hey, I really don't like it when you do this. You can use an indirect approach. You can ask someone to speak for you, using a third-party approach. You can use your chain of command, or you can file an EO complaint and request resolution. We want to resolve these issues at the lowest level. So it's easier if you yourself think about the Army values and stand up and say, hey, this is unacceptable. Responsibilities. Commanders and supervisors. They have the affirmative responsibility to stop hazing and bullying immediately. Report allegations of hazing and bullying to the chain of command, IG and/or EOA as applicable. They have the responsibility to investigate as applicable. And lastly, they are required by regulation to conduct hazing and bullying training. Soldiers, your responsibility is to report hazing and bullying to the commander, chain of command, IG, or EO as applicable. And lastly, your responsibility is to treat all persons with dignity and respect. In summary, stop the behavior, as everybody has the affirmative responsibility to do so. Next, we're going to talk about the Army National Guard EO complaint process. Like I said before, the goal is to resolve all complaints at the lowest level. The aggrieved individual, MDA or AGR, confronts the offender, or they inform the unit EOL or EOA, advise the chain of command, or submit a timely EO-based complaint through their unit EOA. The EOA, his responsibility is to conduct a pre-complaint intake with the aggrieved, advise the aggrieved on the process, notify the chain of command, and then the state equal opportunity manager. The EOA then is going to attempt to resolve this at the lowest level. If no resolution can come about, we're going to initiate an informal resolution request. If a complaint does arise, our goal is to resolve it at the lowest level. If it goes into more of a formal process, we will fill out the informal resolution request. Note the timeline. (180 days). Okay. The EOA will do the complaint intake form. Again, we'll try to resolve it at the lowest level. And if we cannot resolve it at the lowest level, we will then initiate further inquiries. Resolution can be recorded on the NGB Form 333. The commander will initiate a reprisal prevention plan. The command-directed inquiry or investigation. The command findings decision and notice of proposed resolution, the NPR. And then the complainant elects to accept, withdraw their IRR, or to file an NGB formal complaint request, the 333, within 30 calendar days. The commander has 180 days to complete the IRR process. And that is so that there's time for the investigation. Again, it's much quicker for us to get back to business and doing what we do best, which is being soldiers, if we can resolve this at the lowest level. Because if you follow the EO policy, it is a force multiplier. Formal resolution request at the NGB level must be filed within 30 days of NPR issuance. You'll file it with the SEAM at JFHQ. NGB timeline is 90 to 180 days. NGB will investigate. NGB will negotiate a resolution and issue a final decision. If the complainant does not like the final decision, they can appeal by requesting a hearing with NGB. So in the end, it could be at least a year or plus to resolve this issue that could have been resolved either face-to-face or with third-party dispute resolution. The goal is to resolve these issues at the lowest level. Disposition on the complaint not based on a protected basis. So think back, the protected bases, if it does not fall within those, the SEAM will dismiss it. It will then go to the appropriate agency. If the complaint is presented through EO channels and it is not an EO issue, it will be referred to one of these following places: the chain of command, the Inspector General, Judge Advocate, military police or criminal investigator, chaplain, medical agency, or the SARC. So in summary, for the past however many minutes, we have discussed the EO policy, purpose, philosophy, and basis of discrimination, EO concepts, illegal discriminatory behaviors, to include sexual harassment, bullying, and hazing, and the Army National Guard complaint process. If you take away anything from this class, there is a zero tolerance for illegal discrimination, bullying, and hazing on or off duty. The command will take affirmative action to stop this behavior, and if substantiated, the applicable party or parties will be disciplined. The foundation for the EO program belongs and starts with each of you. Understand the rules of engagement, treat each other with dignity and respect, and reflect before you speak or put something on social media. We have a great organization, and I am proud to be part of the Army National Guard. Thank you. This concludes my briefing.